Welcome. Well, welcome, Dr. Rossi.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, well, yeah, I'm totally terrible at this, but you know what? We'll swing at it and we'll see where it goes. Dr. Rossi, Nat, what would you like me to call you?
Honestly, I'm an ex-cop, so I respond to everything, including four-letter words. So really, it's whatever you want to call me.
Uh, okay, I was just seeing if you had a preference towards either, but I'll probably just call either Nat or Dr. Rossi, whatever comes out of my mouth.
Both of those work. Nat for those who are my friends, Dr. Rossi for those who are also my friends but pay me. So either way,
You know, for a long time, I kept referring to you as Nate.
the dumb story that goes with that is that's my wife's ex.
That is a good reason to not go, hey, Nate.
No, that and I always made the joke that obviously my given name is Nathaniel, but I always made the joke that I'm just so efficient. I chopped it from 9 down to 3.
I went 7 before.
There you go. See?
So anyways, welcome to my new podcast, In Progress. Just a quick short intro for you as well. I'm looking to improve my life, improve my health. So I have with me Dr. Rossi, Nat, who is a good friend and actually going to be helping me in this journey. So Dr. Rossi, want to go ahead and give a quick introduction as to who you are?
Sure. I was a police officer for a decade before my wife lost function of her hand. Very long story, massively condensed. Basically stumbled across a specialty chiropractor who basically gave my wife her hand function back and gave me my wife who I have today. So that started us on a whole journey of pretty much completely switching careers and selling everything we own and then going back into doctoral school after pre-med and all that fun stuff. Currently reside obviously in Mount Pleasant. That is also where my office is, my brick and mortar. I am what's referred to as a NUCCA doctor, NUCCA. It basically means I'm an upper cervical chiropractor. I don't do any twisting, cracking, or popping of the head and neck. And I really focus on the top bone as it affects the brain stem and thereby every nerve going down the body. So I deal more in like neurologic conditions, chronic conditions. And then the sidebar for that is just a personal journey for me. I try to be as much of a one-stop shop as possible. So, I mean, going into doing blood labs, functional medicine, full functional movement retraining, you name it, I try to dive in as much as I can to look at the body as a whole.
So you say NUCCA. I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
Like, really, I have no idea what you say, NUCCA and this and that. You say upper cervical bone there. What is NUCCA?
Fair enough. When NUCCA was started, oh goodness, we're going to go back in like a dorky history mode. I believe in the 1950s by Ralph Gregory. Uh, Basically, traditional chiropractic is still adjusting by hand, but it's high velocity, high amplitude adjustments. Most people just recognize it by the crack, right? The cavitation noise it makes when you're actually interacting with the joint and the vertebra. The difference is that we look at 3 very specific views of the head and neck to actually see how the very top bone, which is called atlas, that our skull actually rests on and is basically where the spinal cord becomes our brainstem, how that is actually interacting with our body. What type of pressure might be put on the brainstem, what type of pressure might be putting against the blood vessels running up into our brain and back to our body. And we do that incredibly gentle. And for reference, we usually tell people if you put your fingers against your neck to check your pulse, that's about the amount of pressure that we adjust with. And we're able to do that through a whole lot of nerd math and a whole lot of understanding of biomechanics, lever systems. Again, there's probably half the people who have fallen asleep listening to the description of what I do, but you're welcome. It's just a lot of nerd math and biomechanics, but ultimately gentle, precise, effective. I mean, there's your pillars of what you're looking to do to the body. And my personal philosophy in that is anything you do to the body as far as putting a force, no matter how gentle it is, that is not needed in the body, there's a consequence. So I take it very seriously with the fact that we're able to do things very gentle, very precise, but actually being really effective at what we do. So, yeah.
Very cool. Each time you were talking about gentle force, I do want to share how really I ended up coming into your office and meeting you in person there for much needed relief. As I'm getting old, yeah, I feel old. I lost my pillow in the middle of the night and woke up unable to turn my head in immense pain. As you already told me, that was probably a long time overdue, and not because I lost my pillow, but because I'm just me.
Straw that broke the camel's back, right?
Yeah, it was a little pillow. Some people lose it when they tie their shoes. But yeah, so yeah, I was in an immense amount of pain, and I'm like, I need to find somewhere. I need somebody to help me today. And you're able to get me in. Kind of in light of that, in our interaction there, our first help me, I'm in immense pain. There's a lot of misconception about pain in regards to spine and what to do about it. You have taught me quite a bit about how, no, it doesn't require a lot of force. It doesn't require a lot of effort. It requires the right amount of force in the right location. Would you be able to kind of elaborate on, like, what's that misconception like? And then when you're meeting new patients who are coming in, I'm in pain, I need help. Can you crack my back?
Yeah, absolutely. So as you can already tell, I love analogies and I love really dorky bumper sticker slogans, but I like to tell people replace the P and the F with the P and the F. What that means is our world and our culture has taught ourselves through how we work out, through what we should be doing with chiropractic, through what we're doing holistically, through what we're doing in medicine, that power and force are the way we fix everything.
Yeah.
And that's simply not true the vast majority of the time. Instead of power and force, we should be looking at precision and what I like to call finesse, right? What it basically means is, again, the slogan from, I'm going to totally date myself here, but like the 1980s, I believe is what originated with the whole, the whole workout slogan, right? No pain, no gain. Again, it came from a good place, but it has been misconstrued over the years. What they're referencing is the fact that when we work out, we actually do tear muscle fibers. That creates hypertrophy, which is quite literally just the increase of size of those fibers. That's how the bicep goes from really weak and tiny to big and strong, right? Except that pain versus discomfort is very different. When you're working out, there's a purpose. When you're tearing apart those muscles, you're actually doing that through, hopefully, proper posture, ergonomics, proper movements. That is very different than actually tearing a muscle, which you can do from overexertion.
Yeah.
And we've all experienced that wonderful thing. I've torn ligaments and stuff like that. I mean, again, I'm an ex-cop, torn plenty of muscles and ligaments.
I was going to say, I don't know that pain at
Yeah,
all.
totally.
My
But
shoulder still yells at me.
the thing that comes about is understanding the body. And so for a lot of people, yes, we do get those phone calls with like, my low back is killing me. I have all this low back pain. I need you to crack my low back. Again, a couple things with that are really problematic. Number one, that's where the pain is. It doesn't necessarily mean that that's where the problem is. And that's a huge one. So let's kind of take a step back and I'll try and break this down really simple. But when we look at the brainstem, it is responsible for a whole host of functions. Let's just focus on three really important ones right now: posture, balance, and what we call proprioception. Ooh, fancy term. Proprioception is your brain's awareness in time and space of where your head, hands, and feet are at all times. It is the reason that when we walk, we don't have to stare awkwardly at our feet. We can just know where our feet will land. That's great. We take that for granted. If you look at advanced stages of things like Parkinson's, that actually affects the brainstem and the gray and white matter exchange, what is one of the first things they lose? Proprioception. Hence the fact that they have a whole stuttering gait and they can't lift their feet off the ground, otherwise they'll fall, because they're trying to maintain that constant contact to know where their feet are. We're not always referencing Parkinson's in every patient, obviously, but when we look at the brainstem, we're also going to look at things like posture, right? And balance. So let's talk posture. People think that just means sit up straight, bring your head back awkwardly, give yourself a triple chin, right? I know. And that's not really what we're referencing. What we're referencing is, should atlas, again, the top bone sitting right here that our skull sits on, Should Atlas swing up and to the side or torsion twist forward or backward? It's going to affect the placement of our vertebra. It's going to shift the neck one way and a head another way, which now kinks us, puts our eyes no longer level to the horizon. Our brain says, I don't like this pressure. It's yanking on the spinal cord. No, thank you. What do we do? How can we fix this? Brainstem goes, easy. Let's sacrifice some things. So it slams the shoulder down and it slams the hip down to relieve the pressure on our spinal cord or our rope, basically. And by doing that, what have we just created? But you create some wonderful upper back pain, some neck pain, maybe some headaches, low back pain. I mean, it's different per person based on the weaknesses that are currently in their body. Again, what I tell people is pain is a terrible indicator of where the problem is. It just is a red flag saying there is something wrong. The other example I can give with that is ignore all that and just assume that you damage a shoulder. Let's say you get smacked really hard in the right shoulder. Pain's going to present in potentially two areas. Initially, it might present in the right shoulder if that's a shoulder that was smacked. But then let's say we go a week or two down the road, if we haven't addressed that issue, you may have shooting pain in your left shoulder. Well, if people go, that doesn't make sense. Why would we have pain there? Sensation. If the right shoulder has not been addressed, it's healed enough that you don't have searing pain, but now we don't have full function. Your left side is going to overload, trying to do more than its normal job. So in that case, if you were to run into my office and say, I have left shoulder pain, adjust my left shoulder. And if I didn't do any sort of exam and I just go and pop your shoulder in place, which I don't do anyway, but pop your shoulder back in place, you would just be causing damage to an area that is already overloaded and has no purpose. So long-winded answer, I apologize, but main thing I
No,
really try and teach patients is pain is the last thing to show up, right? Because first there's something that happens neurologically, something structural wise, right? Then muscles start to become affected. The last thing to show up is the toddler who's kicking and screaming and banging their head against the coffee table because you're not listening. Pain. Here's the thing that kind of sucks. Most of the time we don't notice or we explain away any kind of nerve or neurologic based issues. Most of the time we do the same thing for structure. Oh, I mean, I'm not 20 anymore. And of course I can't, squat. That's super normal once you hit 35. It just makes sense. I'm like, what? And then you look at muscles, right? Well, I mean, I have a job that I sit behind a computer. It makes sense that I can no longer bench press or, do a bicep curl. And I used to be able to do 50 pounds. I can only do 10. It just makes sense. We, of course, rationalize ridiculously away. Finally, the body goes, holy cow, you're not listening to me. So it goes, okay, pain time. And pain is the thing that everybody will listen to. But as you already brought up as well, if pain is the last thing to show up, we already had other problems going on. So like in your case, oh yeah, you came to me, lots of pain. And what did we find out through the exam and through digital x-rays? Yeah, no, this is not something that is brand new and acute. It was very evident by some of the bony destruction we saw and some of the disc loss and other things. Like, this is a chronic thing. We're just seeing the iceberg peeking up through the water instead of us actually seeing the gargantuan mountain that was underneath. Now, the cool thing is my job is to find the root cause. You attack that sucker and the symptoms go away to an extent. And here's the three questions that people always have. And these are the three questions I always answer. What is fixable? What's improvable? And is there something that's not going to change? And how might that affect mobility or your care or something like that? And
so
if you can't tell, like, I really like patient education with that so that you have a better understanding.
so kind of follow up on that because you said, "Hey, what's fixable? What's not fixable?"
Improvable. Yep.
A question I come back and forth on is what is health and what is genetics? Like, how much of it is this is just the way you are? Like, I know I'm not going to be a 6 foot supermodel because I'm just not built that way. I'm 5'7" and can plow through a wall, but I'm not going to fit in a size 0 dress ever in my life.
So for those of you just tuning in, Rich is very much aware that he's not going to be a 6 foot supermodel because he is only 5'7", so he can only be a 5'7" supermodel. So just so we're aware. No, and that's totally fair. And that's a really good question, loaded question, but I'll do my best to answer it really succinctly. There are, of course, going to be aspects that are going to come into play. I have patients who are literally 4'9" adults, all the way to my tallest patient who is 6'8". So there are absolute differences when you're talking to them about things like posture, ergonomics, factors that are going to lead to more damage to their spine during certain movements. So yeah, there are some genetic modification things in there. This is kind of the whole thing to look at with like simple things like BMI, the way it was done back in the day, unlike the new technology we have now. I've been overweight / obese since I was a freshman in high school because I was 6 foot tall and 180 pounds in high school. So according to BMI, I was obese and overweight. I'm currently 210 pounds and 6'2". So I'm still considered overweight / obese. If we get away from the traditional models of looking at health, right? And definitely get away from the definitions we had before, which is health is feeling good and looking good. It's a very dangerous model to look at because we've seen enough celebrities who have 6% body fat, are sculpted like Adonis, and die of heart failure and die of all kinds of crazy diseases. So that's not really health. Health is the optimal functioning of all of our organs, our nervous system, and how that then expresses through our body. A prime example I like to give people with that, just to put in context, is if I say, Rich, that I see you behind that bush over there, assuming you have not had alcohol, and you're barfing your brains out. Are you healthy or sick?
Probably sick would be my take on that.
So we don't know, because what if you told me after the fact that I had been over at your house for a picnic and that grandma decided to leave out her egg salad in the sun for 2 hours, which she made with fresh eggs and mayo. And that was the reason we were barfing. Because if you're barfing for no reason, yeah, maybe you're sick. If you're doing that because you just consumed something that would be a toxic thing to your body, well, that'd be health. So again, I use that as a bit of a trick, but it's to put in perspective that health is a real dangerous thing for us to assume a lot of things with. So to kind of loop back to like the genetics versus health aspect of it, look,
lifestyle versus genetics.
Yeah, and I'm never going to build muscle at the same rate that you are. I can't. I've tried a billion times, and there's guys who just get way bigger muscles than me. That's genetics. You know, you and I could power lift the exact same weight. We could technically be as strong as each other. You're just going to have bigger biceps and bigger thighs than I'm going to have. And we're all going to be super jealous of you, but I can't build muscle that way.
Part of me is like, nah, you're not going to be able to keep up with me.
Yo.
Yeah. How many 1,500-pound clubs have you joined?
Are we talking 1,500 calories? Quite a few. No, but when we look at lifestyle, this is the trick where it comes in. And this is absolutely where chiropractic is only a piece of the puzzle. You have to be looking at, and I'm not even going to say exercise, I'm going to say motion, because exercise is kind of a trigger word for a lot of people. Movement, mobility, whatever you want, looks very different for each person, but there has to be an aspect that you're absolutely getting blood flowing through your body, warming the tissues up. Again, dumb bumper sticker slogan. There's a reason they say movement is life.
Yes.
If you're not pumping blood through the bodies, it is a use it or lose it principle. Chiropractic is absolutely a piece of that puzzle. Keeping the structures moving properly, keeping the nerves functioning properly, keeping the blood flow going properly. Getting proper checkups, 100%. You should be getting blood labs done at least once a year. And if you see something flagged on those, you should absolutely be doing more digging to find out what the root causes of those things are and to do applicable labs like that. Nutrition is gargantuan. Again, we're going to make fun of all of us from the 80s again when we talk about the fact that we had this bizarre idea that we look at a Snickers bar and let's just make up a number. Snickers bar has 300 calories. I have no idea. Let's say 300 calories. Well, if I go nom, 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 eat that Snickers bar, and then I jump on a treadmill and I run until I burn 300 calories, I burned off that Snickers bar, is literally what we were telling everyone back in the day. Now, that's the most ridiculous principle. That is not how that works at all. But it is very important to look at what you put in your body is going to fuel a million things, literally. And to make it really simple, Over 70% of America is deficient in magnesium. Most people don't know that. Most people also don't know that there's like a dozen forms of magnesium. There's a bunch, but really there's like a main about a dozen. And they all have very different functions.
So it's funny you say that because I actually have a magnesium supplement. It's on my nightstand and I take the supplement every night. Man, that changed my sleep. Like, I have the sleep tracker stuff on my Apple Watch and no plug there.
Yeah.
But like,
Sponsored by Apple.
I wish if you want to sponsor me, I'd be very happy.
So the doc who's on an iPad over here, right? You're also sponsored by Apple.
But it was showing like my sleep stress, like how much movement and different things like that. And I was getting a few different ratings on there. But after I started taking the magnesium supplement, I wish I had it with me. But yeah, after taking that magnesium supplement, dude, my sleep stress went
Plummeted.
and flat until I get up and I'm like, wow, that was something telling to me. So yeah. And also I've noticed like I'm 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 a data guy. I collect way too much data and yeah, those different points and things like going, hey, what affected this? But yeah, that magnesium was one of those things that really changed my sleep. But and whenever I run out of it, or if I don't have it, or I miss it, I can feel.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's one of those where it's easy for me to look at those things and go, gosh, this was so obvious. Why did you not? If you were to try and talk to me about AI or any of the host of things that you do, you're going to lose me in about 30 seconds. I'll follow you for a hot minute and you're going to say stuff that you're going to go, this is so obvious, doc. Like, how do you not follow me? And it's the same thing for me where, but again, my brain just knows. Like if a person tells me, oh yeah, I wake up like clockwork, always between 1 and 4 a.m. Just I wake up for no reason at all. Not even get up to go pee. No, just no reason. Always, like every night. I go, well, that's magnesium deficiency almost across the board. But there's other factors that go into that too. I mean, our world says if you struggle with sleeping, take a pill, right? Take an Ambien, take whatever. To differentiate between that two, that will make you sleep. The same thing is true if you stay up for 72 hours. Oh, you'll crash from pure exhaustion and you will sleep. That is not the same thing as rest. And there's a reason it's not called sleep and digest. There's a reason that actually getting to there is called rest and digest. Not just because it's cute and rhymes, but because rest is very different than sleep. You take a pill, you will sleep, but your body doesn't actually drop, like you're saying, out of that stress cascade into the proper areas to actually do healing and all those wonderful things. The world says take melatonin, it's all natural, yeehaw. The issue to look at is why is your body doing that in the first place? Are you magnesium deficient? The other one that's a huge one that's kind of hilarious to me is the amount of people consuming carbs like right before going to bed. I'm like, you're just spiking your blood sugar. And they're shocked why it takes them forever to fall asleep and why they wake up 6 times a night. I'm like, you're overloading carbs right before you go to bed, spiking blood sugar. And then you're sitting there going, yeah, it's so weird. I can't figure out why I'm not sleeping
So
good.
you're telling me we shouldn't have an ice cream sundae before we go to bed?
You absolutely should. 3 hours before you go to bed. But no, and I mean, look, I know we're going a little bit off onto a different tangent too, but I mean, this is the same thing as the number of people who fall asleep to the TV or literally go, all right, time for bed. And they go click on their phone 30 seconds before they lay their head on the pillow. I mean, again, there's a reason your eyeballs zinging back and forth. You're still trying to process everything. We look at a picture. Like I can even see like the cool books behind you. It's a printed picture. You look at that, your brain's going to take that as a thing. When we stare at a screen, how many millions of pixels are on there? Things are in motion. Your brain is trying to process all of that. It's the difference of why you watching a movie takes more brain processing power than you grabbing a physical book and reading. You're not going to have the same processing power after the fact. And our whole world is just honoring stress and then trying to max out everything to the very last second. And then, oh, and now I'll lay my head and try and go to sleep. And then we're shocked why we sleep like garbage and eat like garbage. And then we're more exhausted. So then we don't want to move. And as we already learned, mobility is terrible for you. So don't do any sort of motion. And then unfortunately, it feeds into everything. And it's a vicious cycle that continues on and on. And as we've already talked a bit too, this is where my real passion, as much as I love communicating to patients and educating them, I really want to overhaul a patient's whole life within the bounds of my skill set. Like, don't come to me about you witnessed a murder. I'm not a therapist. I can't talk you through that. But obviously I'll be like, hey, let's talk about stress management. You witnessed a murder. Tell me more.
Yes.
But yeah, we try and view the person as a whole. I'm simplifying, but if you're having an issue with the process in your liver, which by the way, magnesium does over 300 processes throughout our body. Liver is a gargantuan one. Look at that, tied it all in. Again, yeah, the liver has an issue. We see it on blood labs, right? Great. That's a downstream effect. We need to look more upstream and figure out why that's occurring. And that's what takes a lot of work. And no, I'm not the only doc doing it, but there's a lot of awesome doctors who are spending a lot more time with patients to actually figure out and get to the root of the problems.
Very cool. So there's part of me looking at that going, okay, part of my whole goal with this is I want to improve my life, and I want to give this as a example of what I'm going through and the different things I'm doing. So in that, there's some base protocols or things like that. There's a lot that I'm already doing in my life and a lot of things that I've already changed, coming from powerlifting and trying to compete there, to injury, to getting major surgery, ending up in the hospital with pneumonia. 25 has been a rough year for me. So coming out of that, I'm like, hey, I need to improve my life. I need to get better. I have all of these high level gurus going XYZ, this. And then I also get on the other side. I get other people saying, make small changes slowly. You'll get better effectiveness. And then the other side going, no, do the hard cutoff, cold turkey, jump at it, just do it. What is your thoughts I would kind of say, what would be a base protocol that you would want to throw in there and go like, hey, this is a default, or this is like, hey, if you do nothing else, this should be step one. What would be your most important protocol?
Well, okay, so let me back up a fraction. So you brought up kind of three components there where you're basically saying you're being told by all these kind of different professionals or gurus and the ones are saying, hey, dive in and throw everything in the kitchen sink at it all at once and just knock it all out. I will definitely say I'm not a fan of that. You're going to overtax your system. And it's one of those two where you should do appropriate lab testing. You should do appropriate neuro testing. You should do all kinds of appropriate tests to find out where the largest problem is. As we already talked about upstream versus downstream, let's say liver flags like crazy. And we're just showing so many problems with liver. Now we also see some kidney. We also see a little gallbladder. Pick a couple random things, right? We see some other issues. If we attack all at once, I mean, my gosh, it's going to just obliterate your body. And then if something should go wrong, is it that the thing we're doing with the liver? Is it the thing we're doing with the kidney? Is it the combo of two? Is it the combo of three? There's way too many variables to try and control with that. I'm a much bigger fan of saying, what is the largest problem we have right now? Attack that, especially because when you attack the largest problem, it usually has a trickle down effect into other things. I mean, this shouldn't surprise anyone, but every organ in our body is interwoven so wonderfully throughout our entire body. You can't affect the liver without affecting other organs and processes in our body. So I'm definitely a much bigger fan of closer towards the like baby steps. And I'm going to tweak that a little bit and just say, let's find what appears to be the large issue and let's attack that properly and effectively, then reassess and see, because of a lot of the times with patients, what you find out is a bunch of the other issues have already corrected themselves or massively improved, which will completely change your approach and how you're going to go and attack those. Again, like I said in the very beginning of this, anytime you put more input into the body than is needed, there is a consequence. We talked about magnesium being awesome. Well, let's talk about one that people abuse a lot, right? Zinc. Zinc is well known for its immune boosting effects. However, the amount of people who don't understand milligram dosage, they're on a therapeutic dosage when they're sick, and they continue taking that therapeutic dosage, high dosage, which keep in mind, a therapeutic dose is like 40 milligrams. Your daily dose, depending on gender, age, and size, is usually hovering around about 10 milligrams per day, which means if you are no longer sick and you're still taking that, you are taking 4 times the doses that you should be. And again, there's a balancing scale inside of our body. If you're high on zinc, something else has to drop. And on top of that, we can always talk about chronic usage of that creates zinc toxicity, which creates the whole terrible effect from that. But the one I'm going to put a kind of asterisk next to is you said, just go cold turkey. Typically not a fan of that unless, and here's where the asterisk comes in, unless the thing that you're doing is causing harm, is literally causing destruction or doing something dangerous to your body. Prime example, even if you're abusing a medication or you're abusing any sort of over the counter or anything like that. Again, I don't know any doctor who's going to tell you to go cold turkey. You have to do proper withdrawals for anything. Same thing is true if you are doing something, assuming it's not causing massive damage, we have to evaluate it and say, look, is there a way to start tampering down slowly, or is there a negative to us just chopping this thing off right now and introducing a new thing? But again, I realize that's not the most beautiful answer, but again, every patient who walks in the door is so unique, and not just in that like cute thing that mom always says to you where you're like, you're unique and special. It's literally because there is no 2 patients that walk in with the exact same problem and the same body size and the same history and the same things going wrong in their body. Every single person is so unique. So I'm trying to paint with a broad brush of like, the 9 out of 10 as much as I can, but it's hard because there's some people I've said 100% you need to cut those 2 actions immediately and don't do anything. And the other patients I've said, you need to cut those 2 things right this second and you need to put these 2 in their place. And the other people I've said, don't change anything. We're just going to alter what you're doing little by little. So it's so dependent on so many factors. But again, this is why I say you have to look at the person as a whole to understand what consequence or what benefit is this going to give us. So
How would you start that process? Or what would be, we walk in and go, hey, I want to start this process. What do I
so
need
if
to do?
so let me go with an assumption here. Are we saying this is a person who either has been away from chiropractic care and taking care of themselves for a long time, or has never been under chiropractic care or taking care of themselves in a while? We're kind of going with that assumption.
I will make it even more specific
Hit me with it.
and go, what is the first protocol I should be doing? You do know my
There we
history.
go.
You
I
do
know
know
you
my,
really well. Okay, cool. So
and
you've obviously,
explain a little bit why. And I'll give the quick answer to yours. Yes, I've been under chiropractic care before. It was well, and actually was while I was powerlifting. My chiropractor really disliked my powerlifting, and we ended up parting ways. Then that was probably 5 years ago. So, yeah, now that I woke up one morning unable to move, and now I'm back under Dr. Rossi's amazing care.
thank you. So, okay, so let's do this. Rich is obviously, you've already given permission to talk about your care and such. So, yes, you walked in the door, basically like a help me. So, what we do with that is, again, absolutely doing a full history, taking a look at, has this ever happened before, things like that. Yes, we do a very thorough exam, range of motion, palpation, pretty much the whole body. You do an orthopedic test, neurologic testing. We're basically seeing where your body succeeds and where it fails. Immediately following that, digital x-rays. Now, for NUCCA specifically, I'm always going to do a 3 view of the head and neck. If there's something else of concern, again, patient walks in the door and says, I think I might have scoliosis. Yeah, 100%. We're going to shoot scoliotic films to either rule it in or rule it out. In your case, we were pretty good. We were able to just shoot the 3 of your head and neck, since that is clearly where we failed everything.
2.5. I mean, I couldn't quite move enough for the third one.
Yeah, no, we usually I'm just bam, 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 single shotting it, and we may have had to do 3 takes on that one. So that's what happens. We have absolutely no neck extension, but we did the X-rays. Obviously, figured out what the problem was. You and I got to work. Obviously, if you guys can't tell, Rich can move really well, has nice range of motion, can move pretty much to his shoulders, all that good stuff. To put this in perspective, if turning from nose to shoulder is about 90, Rich moved, I believe the initial paperwork was a whopping 10 degrees, I think you gave me, which is
In
basically
pain.
moving.
In
Oh,
pain.
yeah, in searing pain. So it's that in searing pain. Knowing that we've already got you moving really well, the next stage here is kind of be twofold things. The very first thing we're going to look at, even before we look at blood labs or anything like that, is Rich is going to be coming in and doing what I call a biomechanical assessment. It's basically to say, okay, we're going to take a look at upper body. We're going to take a look at lower body. Where are we failing more in range of motion, in movements, in actual functional movements of the muscles? And what I mean by functional movement of muscles, it means Rich is a strong guy. If I say pick up that huge heavy box, he's going to be able to do it. However, is he doing it while recruiting the proper muscles or is he not? Now, in this case, we already know you're not.
Hey, my Olympic form is pretty much on par.
I would say your back and your butt and leg positioning is unformed. I would question which muscles were firing. But no, all seriousness, we're going to do a whole functional assessment. And based on that, let's just go with an assumption. Let's say we look through this and I go, hey, you know what? You actually did 60% on lower extremity, basically lower half of the body, but we only did like 20% on the top half. You and I are starting on the top half. So if we go with that, basically I'm going to take a look and see where are the weakest components, where are the weakest muscles, and then we'll start off by actually designing just body weight movements. And I know what some people are thinking, and I've had this talk before with patients where they roll their eyes and go, are you kidding me? Rich has been slinging 1,000 pounds and suddenly you're going to give him body weight. What the heck is that going to do? All right, cool.
My
Let's back.
warm-up squat's 135.
Oh my gosh.
And that's just to kind of get things moving and stretched out
Moving
all
and
the
grooving.
way.
Here's what I will tell you. I had a gal come to me who was complaining about how her heart rate never got above 130. She's doing almost an hour-long HIIT workouts. She's barely even sweating, right? And she's like, I don't understand. My muscles are not getting toned. I'm actually gaining weight, things like that. Come do the full functional assessment. I literally designed a lower extremity one, and it's going to be a cascading 6. What that means is 6 movements. You do 6 reps each. No break. You go right into then 5 reps, then 4 reps, then 3 reps, then 2 reps, then 1 reps. A couple reasons why we do that. One is you're going to fatigue, but you're going to fatigue in descending. So you're matching your fatigue. It lowers injury risk. She literally looked at the protocol and she laughed at me, which was awesome because her husband went, oh, and just shook his head because he was like, just trust doc, just trust doc. And she's laughing at me. I said, it's going to take you 10 minutes to do this. We're going to go outside. She goes, okay. And by the way, she's doing all her HIIT workouts, open garage door, fully exposed to outside elements, all that good stuff. We didn't change any elements because I was going to have her do it inside. She goes, no, I work out with the door open. I go, okay, we'll keep same variables. So we go outside. We do the movements. First of all, she almost fatigued out at 2. When she got down to 2, she finishes. She's drenched in sweat. She's like, ugh. Her Apple Watch shows that she's got a heart rate of 162. And she's like, that kicked my butt. What's really cool is 3 weeks later, she comes in, more sculpted legs, more sculpted glutes. She's got more energy. She's sleeping better. Heart rate variability, which she's been tracking like crazy, increased. Again, no, I'm not a miracle worker. What it is I just know how to find the weaknesses. Now, the cool thing is we've been progressing now into weights and stuff with her, but that's where you and I are going to start. Because if I just say, hey, go grab that weight and just drop the weight, make it less. Well, if you still have crappy form, or in your case, I know you have good form, but we're recruiting the wrong muscles, you're just going to cause more damage just at a slower rate. That doesn't make sense. So for you and me, functional is where we're going to start. While we're getting that set, that's where you and I are going to go run some blood labs. And we're going to say, let's start with the basics and let's see if anything flags. We're going to start with our basics. If the basic blood labs come back and let's say a few things flag, we're going to take a look and say, okay, do we need to do some more advanced labs based on these? And that's where the actual protocols for or protocols that we're actually going to affect are going to come in. And again, that's where, let's say you flag 4 things. I'm probably not going to attack 4 things at once. It just doesn't make sense to do that. You're going to overtax your system. Again, we're going to look at what the largest one is and attack that. Once that levels out, how did that affect the other things?
Makes
So
sense.
apologize for the long-winded answer, but that's really how we're going to approach attacking this. And what's cool is when you attack mobility and how muscles are functioning, which now pumps blood more efficiently through the body, and then you're also lowering inflammation and stress inside the body, better heart health, better lung capacity, all kinds of good things like that. And now we go into lab work and protocols like that. The cool thing is it affects so many other aspects. Because I know we're transitioning away from powerlifting, and what I'm going to say, we're going to transition more to like endurance lifting, right? We're looking for max fatigue of these muscles. We're trying to create usable muscles to meet where you are in life. You got two small kiddos. You got to be able to dive around the ground and have them treat you like a spinal trampoline.
They do.
It's one of those where Olympic lifting's cool, but it's the same thing. Like back when I was a cop, I mean, I was same as you. I mean, I was doing insane weights because I needed immediate power because in order for make sure that I can go home at the end of the night, I needed that power to stop whatever threat within seconds. I didn't want to be like, I'm going to fight for 20 minutes. Like that'd be ridiculous. I want to stop the threat immediately. The difference is once I stopped being a cop, I mean, I didn't need that type of muscle anymore. I had to transition more into the endurance lifting side because I needed a very different sort of muscle. For those of you who don't know, I fly the tricep all day long. So I very much needed to create endurance muscle in that tricep because when I only had power tricep, you do about 5 adjustments. You're like, huh, 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 huh.
So, kind of to wrap things up here and kind of bring it into a point, our next steps is I'll go ahead. I'll be planning on coming in, getting that full functional movement and getting that assessment.
Yep.
Then we'll be getting the labs and I will be getting your torture protocol. As long as you don't put me on the rack, I am not going on that thing.
Decompression.
Yeah, that's a no-go for me.
No, it's a funny joke I always make whenever patients walk in. I always go, it's most everything in the office. I mean, my wife owns and runs the office, so it's very aesthetically pleasing. The only thing in my office that is not aesthetically pleasing, and Rich can absolutely attest to this, the decompression unit, they're just not pretty to look at. But all joking aside, they serve an amazing purpose, but I only use them for scoliosis patients and disc injuries. So I'm not going to magically make you 6 foot tall by throwing you on a stretch rack. That's hilarious. But no, unless you decide to blow out a disc, you're not going on that thing anyway. So,
All
but
right.
no.
Well, hey, it's been a great pleasure talking with you. I assume we're going to be talking a few more times coming up here. And yeah, we'll see how this goes and what we can do.
We'll have an interesting follow up once we actually get the whole plan laid out, and you can come on here and you can tell how I'm so mean to you by creating this protocol to beat you up.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we'll definitely have you back.
Rich, it's
Well,
been a pleasure.
likewise.
Thanks so
Thank you
much.
very much.
You're welcome.